Welcome back to the Business Analyst Training. In the previous sections, you learned about how to manage and monitor the changes to a business process, the different types of changes, and the stages involved in a change control process. In this learning bite, we'll be focusing on the user acceptance testing or UAT phase of the automation implementation, where as a business analyst, you will be responsible for coordinating with the end user, implementation team, and conduct user acceptance testing as per the UAT plan created and approved earlier in the process analysis phase. Logging the deviations from the expected outcomes due to bugs or defects, and further working with the automation development team to resolve those. In the UAT phase, the bot in the pre-production environment runs all the potential happy path and business exception scenarios. This is to ensure that the automation is performing as per all agreed upon requirements. If there are any deviations from the expected outcomes due to defects or bugs, the business analyst would log those and further resolve those with the help of the automation implementation team. At this point, the developer creates a runbook document template in collaboration with the solution architect. This document must contain relevant information on system architecture, details on production environments, and instructions on how to operate the automation if necessary. It also includes detailed instructions to the operations, IT, and automation implementation team on how to proceed with the deployment. The business analyst is also consulted while developing the runbook as they understand the communication needs of the stakeholders and can thus guide the developers on the structure, format, and the appropriate level of details. If needed, the runbook document template can be further adjusted during subsequent phases. As a best practice, we highly recommend documenting the runbook template for every automation. On successful testing, UAT test cases are executed, and the client business team signs off on test execution. This phase of automation implementation is about the process of validating whether the automation solution is working as intended based on the agreed requirements and specifications. Since business analysts have a complete understanding of the project and the corresponding requirements, their role throughout this phase is significant. We have already seen in the process analysis phase, their knowledge of the project enables them to create suitable test cases and scenarios. For that to happen, business analysts must confirm that the process owners successfully identify the test data required in all the test cases. In the absence of a project manager or implementation manager, the UAT plan is prepared by the business analyst, who then coordinates the entire process by ensuring that all the test cases are executed, collects the positive and the negative results, and provides the status of testing results. In the end, the testing is signed off. Considering that automation is most often built on pre-existing processes, the testing phase in the case of an automation project involves simulating the activity of a human operator and comparing the output of the one returned by the robot to ensure the two matches. Before starting off with the testing process, there are some prerequisites that must be met to ease the process. These include test scenarios, test data, test environments, and information related to process frequency, data restoration, dependencies, test duration, and intermediary outputs. Let's analyze each prerequisite. The test scenarios must cover all the business use cases, rules, and exceptions by considering every individual activity granularly and taking both the positive and the negative scenarios into account. Each result, whether it's positive or negative, must be complemented by a corresponding example to ensure that the information is clear and thorough. The test data consists of process inputs and can include the likes of transaction lists, documents, and emails. The business analyst must ensure that the entire input is mapped to the use cases. Test environments need to be created for robots, automation management tools like Orchestrator, and for all applications used. The information related to process frequency must be provided, and this should also include the update of the environment date in case end-of-day or end-of-month processes need to be run, application downtime, and maintenance schedules. Data restoration capabilities are essential, and to this end, the business analyst needs to know the number of times the data can be restored if needed. If there are any dependencies with other projects in the same environment, the business analyst needs to be aware of them and take them into account before starting the testing process. The business analyst should also collaborate with the developer to find out the duration of the test in a single run, or how long it takes the robot to perform the expected actions, and to learn how intermediary outputs can be verified. When all the prerequisites are met, the business analyst can move on to planning an adequate testing strategy. That action can also be fulfilled by the project manager or the testing manager, depending on the procedures of each company. When elaborating the testing plan, the business analyst needs to consider the following questions. What is the testing scope? Namely, what are the expected outputs? What is the success criteria? Namely, the percentage of successful tests out of the total number of executed scenarios that will determine if the process is validated or not. Who performs the testing? It should be clear whether a dedicated UAT team exists or not, and if it doesn't, who carries out the testing procedures? How long do the tests last? The answer to that question must include the duration, as well as the start and end date, considering the availability of the testers and the required environments. How are the tests carried out and which tools are employed? Proper test scenario templates must be provided, as well as log documents which need to be updated after each testing instance. When it comes to the approach towards automation testing, the business analyst needs to start by organizing a meeting with the testing team where the developer presents a demo of the workflow. As mentioned before, the test cases must be executed manually by a human user to ensure that the resulting output matches the one returned by the robot. All the results must be logged using reports, print screen images, and so on. After capturing all the outputs attained by a human user, we need to run the robot and compare the results to see if they are the same. If the testers identify any issues, every piece of information must be logged and described as early as possible. To facilitate debugging, a report that highlights the pass rate of the planned test cases must be compiled. The entire process must be repeated until the results of all the tests are in accordance with the expected result. If the testing procedures are not planned adequately, we might encounter multiple delays that prolong the automation process time. Inevitably, during testing, issues or bugs will be discovered and need to be centralized. Companies which have software development departments will often use a bug or issue tracker such as Jira, Bugzilla, HP ALM, Mantis, whereas other companies will use issue or bug tracker tools built in Microsoft Excel or Word to do the job. An issue log demonstrates the development issue and helps the development or engineering team reproduce that issue before attempting to fix it. Ideally, a good issue log contains the following items. Title, which provides a summary of what the issue is. It often helps to use a naming convention, like having the name of the tested module between brackets at the beginning of the title. Environment. As differences between environments can vary widely, sometimes issues present in one environment are not reproducible in another. Environment types like dev, test, prod, and application versions are included here. Steps to reproduce. Describing the sequence of steps from start to end which will result in the issue to occur. Expected result. Indicating what the result of the action performed should be. This can be copied from the test case. Actual result. Indicating what the result of the performed action is. This can be copied from the test case as well. Finally, visual proof, which is optional and can be represented by a screenshot or a short recording. Once issues are fixed, a new iteration of the automation workflow is deployed and retesting must be performed. Retesting is done to confirm that the failed test cases are working as expected after all issues have been fixed. An issue log template covering our order-to-cash use case is available for download just below this video, as well as in the Learning Resources section of this course. To summarize, we learned how to coordinate with the end user, the implementation team, and conduct user acceptance testing as per the UAT plan. We also learned how to log the bugs or defects and further work with the automation development team to resolve those. Next, we'll discuss the business analyst's responsibilities during the deployment and hypercare and project closure phases.